love movies and movie discussions, you've come to the right place. Who am I, you ask? I am the Wiz, and I'm here today to review the 1922 documentary Haxan, Witchcraft Through the Ages, directed by Benjamin Christensen. Alright, why don't we take a little trip so I describe what exactly this movie is. So, this film is basically a hybrid of documentary and fiction. There's a story about a woman in the film that is being accused of witchcraft, but the film also shows a lot of documentary footage of pictures and stuff like that, describing witchcraft, Satanism, and demonology throughout the ages. Haxan is very interesting in a number of ways. First off, it's a silent film from the 20s, and it's about witchcraft, which is interesting in itself. The best way to describe this film is like someone doing a dissertation, but instead of doing a paper, they did it as a film. Haxan is very clinical in the way that it's talking about things. It doesn't really gussy or dress up a lot of stuff. It just shows stuff as is and cites sources on top of it. It's really interesting in that way. I think about the first 40 or so minutes is basically them showing different types of pictures from different cultures about witchcraft and Satanism and demons and devils and stuff like that. And honestly, it is quite interesting if you're interested in that type of stuff. But the rest of the film is basically these vignettes about people who are witches and Satan worshippers and stuff like that. And I have to say that some of the visuals are actually really well done. I'm watching the Criterion Collection version of this. It's got some nice color. I think the lighting is really well done in this. Some of the scenes are very well constructed. And on top of that, I think the music is also very well done. But it tells like the story of this old lady who is being accused of witchcraft. But what it really talks about is how witches were interpreted and basically who the victims were and what the witch hunts were like. And I found that very interesting. But what is also interesting is that the end is actually pretty thoughtful. What the filmmaker is doing, Benjamin Christensen, is at the end, he's giving a theory as to what he thinks caused the witch hunts and the witch craze, basically making a parallel to what is going on at that point right now with specific people. And I think it's actually well done. I don't know if it's scientifically sound, to be absolutely honest. But I think what he's trying to get at is actually very interesting. Again, how sound it is, I'm not sure. But I think it was actually very well thought out. What I watched was not what I was expecting. I was really expecting just a crazed fanatic talking about, oh, witches do this, and there's this evil afoot, and da-da-da. But really, it was this very thoughtful type of movie about the history of witchcraft and what happens during the witch hunts, how it pertains to the 20s at the time. And I think there's things in this movie that I think could actually fit with today with witch hunts and how we treat people and how we otherize other people as well. So I think this is a very well thought out film. Honestly, I think it's too dry for most people. I think a lot of people will look at it as, why does it feel like I'm watching a history course? And that's kind of what it feels like, but I find it endearing in that way. I definitely think it's a good movie. It's definitely interesting and fascinating in certain ways. And it's something that I'd like to read up more about. All right, so here are the footnotes for Haxan, Witchcraft Through the Ages. And my footnote is, it's best to think of this as unsolved mysteries, but with witches. If you're having a hard time understanding exactly what I'm saying, think of an episode of Unsolved Mysteries, or America's Most Wanted, or anything like those shows, and then center it around witches. And I think that's the most accurate that I can give on this. It's definitely interesting, but it's interesting in that way where you're watching a show and it's telling you information, citing sources and everything, and it's trying to tell a story on top of teaching you something. I think it's very interesting. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this film was somewhat of an inspiration to those shows. Or, like, as time went on, the building blocks of it led to some of those shows like that. Because this is what this film feels like. And I found that really interesting to watch while I was watching this. So overall, I'm going to recommend Haxan Witchcraft Through the Ages, but I'm going to say this, though. It is pretty damn dry, unless you can find some of the stuff kind of humorous, how they're showing what witches are. Yeah, the stuff that the quote-unquote witches do is utterly ridiculous. But I think the filmmaker actually does a good job showing how utterly ludicrous it is. So it's not something that's taken seriously. And I found that kind of surprising because I was really expecting this film to be something else entirely. I think the film is very interesting. It does a good job with its visuals and with the music and everything to set a mood. And I like how it's sourcing everything and breaks everything to 7 parts. But I have to be honest, I would selectively recommend this to some people, even though I found it fascinating. So overall, I'm going to recommend Haxan Witchcraft Through the Ages. It is on Max, Tubi, Criterion Channel, and a bunch of other places. So if you have any of those, I would check it out. Especially if you're into those docudrama series, because if you are into that, something tells me that you might find this a little fascinating. So I would definitely recommend Haxan Witchcraft Through the Ages. Now, if you want my full review on this movie, you can go to my website at IamTheWiz.com. You'll have my full written review right on the site, along with a link to the video that has this review that you've just listened to. All right, so for Thursday, me and Zero are going to be reviewing The Craft, directed by Andrew Fleming. Saturday, I'll be reviewing the Star Trek reboot, directed by J.J. Abrams. And on Tuesday, we're going to be dealing with a subject matter that is scarier than witches, my friend, and that is politicians. Oh, yeah. If you are in the United States, you know next week is Election Day. So I thought it would be a good idea to watch some films about politicians or politics. And I am choosing 13 Days, directed by Roger Donaldson. I've been curious about this film. It's about the Cuban Missile Crisis. I've been always curious about this movie, but I've just never gotten around to it. So I thought, why not try this one? So on Thursday, me and Zero are going to be reviewing The Craft, directed by Andrew Fleming. Saturday, I'll be reviewing the Star Trek reboot, directed by J.J. Abrams. And on Tuesday, I'll be reviewing 13 Days, directed by Roger Donaldson. I am The Wiz, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.